Well, Edward Snowden has just issued a dire warning to the American people, warning that we are just days away from an event that none of us are absolutely going to like. And by the way, 117 Rhino Republicans signed on for this internet massacre, as I'm going to call it. What am I talking about? Well, take a look here. This is on the Wall Street Journal. House passes controversial spying bill as Speaker Johnson overcomes GOP objections. The House passed legislation Friday to renew the controversial national security spying power as House Speaker Mike Johnson overcame a last-minute intervention from a former President Donald Trump and down-to-the-wire dispute over America's privacy. The bill extending the foreign surveillance program was approved 273 to 147, capping a bitter year-long fight in the chamber that had aligned some conservatives and progressives in seeking more privacy protections against congressional leadership in the Biden administration, which warned that deep changes to the law could put American lives in danger. And that's an understatement, by the way. But the legislation, which will expire next week unless renewed, now is heading to the Senate, where it is expected to pass, and President Biden backs the measure. It would renew Section 702 of the FISA, the Foreign Intelligence Surveillance Act, for just 2 years instead of 5, sought by Johnson earlier in the week, a compromise designed to placate Trump and his allies. Imagine what kind of person you have to be to sign this FISA Act. And I'm going to show you what's actually inside this thing and some of the changes that they made. And the change that they made is a complete sellout to the American people. And this particular change has caused not only Rand Paul to issue a dire warning to the American people, but also Edward Snowden saying we are days away from this particular nightmare. Now, before I move on, I got to give a quick shout out to my sponsor. Well, have you heard of the CERT food diet? Well, this diet is not a restrictive diet at all. In fact, it's all about the specific foods that you should be eating. Well, you may know some big names who have actually followed this diet. One of those being mixed martial artist Conor McGregor, or even world champion boxer David Haye, who credits this amazing drink to his shape. Now, the two international best-selling authors who created this diet, Glenn Matten and Aidan Gawkins, well, they have a new, even more incredible way to get these potent CERT foods to all Americans by combining them all into one revolutionary, powerful drink, so you can get all the benefits of the diet just by drinking this right here that I have in my glass. Now, this is called the Ultimate CERT Juice. It was designed to help you lose weight, help support your overall health, and even give you energy. And by the way, it tastes absolutely amazing. Now, if you want to check it out, all you have to do is go to GetCert, that's GetSIRT.com/Haven, and take advantage of a special offer. Right now, you're getting $20 off this amazing product. And if you want more information on this amazing product, you can also click the link in the description box below, or click that more button if you're on your cell phone. And by the way, click disclaimer, these statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. The product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent diseases. Individual results can vary. All right, back to the broadcast. So let's dive into what exactly is inside of this thing that Edward Snowden is warning that we are just days away. And before I get into Edward Snowden and Rand Paul's warning, I want to show you Elizabeth Goitein. She is the co-director of the Liberty and National Security Program in the Brenna Center for Justice. And she is the one that really highlights what is actually inside this quote unquote terrifying law, because that's exactly what it is. And she says, we have just days to convince the Senate not to pass this terrifying law. And she's talking about this new FISA, and she says this: buried in Section 702 reauthorization bill, the RISAA, passed by the House on Friday, is the biggest expansion of domestic surveillance since the Patriot Act. Senator Wyden calls this power terrifying, and he's right. Now, Senator Ron Wyden, if you're not familiar with him, he is a Democrat, and I agree with him on this one statement, right? And he says here in the statement, this bill represents one of the most dramatic and terrifying expansions of government surveillance authority in history. I will do everything in my power to stop it from passing in the Senate. And you're going to want to contact your senators because we absolutely don't want this to pass. But she goes on to state this. She goes, I'll explain how this new power works. Under current law, the government can compel electronic communication service providers that have direct access to communications to assist the NSA in conducting Section 702 Surveillance Act. She goes, in practice, that means that companies like Verizon, Google must turn over communications of the targets of Section 702 surveillance. The targets must be foreign overseas, although the communications can and do include, you guessed it, Americans. Through a seemingly innocuous change, which they made to the definition of electronic communications surveillance provider, an amendment offered by House Intelligence Committee leaders and passed by the House vastly expands the universe of entities that can be compelled, aka forced to assist. If the bill becomes law, any company or individual that provides any service whatsoever may be forced to assist in NSA surveillance as long as they have access to equipment on which communications are transmitted or stored, such as routers, servers, cell towers, etc. This is an enormous power grab, by the way, unlike we have ever seen in a very long time. But this amendment even extends to service providers who come into our homes, right? House cleaners, plumbers, people performing repairs, IT service providers who have access to laptops and routers inside of our homes and could be forced to serve as surrogate spies. And none of these people or businesses would be allowed to tell anyone about the assistance they were compelled to provide. They would be under a gag order and they would face heavy penalties if they fail to comply with it. We're talking about people who come in and out of your home. And by the way, this includes commercial landlords, who you may pay rent to. Not only that, but it also includes office spaces where, you go to work every day. Journalist office. Yes, journalist office. Lawyers, nonprofit, financial advisors, healthcare providers, and more. I mean, the worst part of this entire thing is, and she kind of gets into this, and I'm going to expand. She goes, unlike Google and Verizon, most of these business and individuals lack the ability to isolate and turn over a target's communication. So they would be required to give the NSA access to the equipment itself. Here you go, NSA. I don't really know exactly how to do what you're asking, but here's the computer. Or they can use techniques or devices to copy and turn over entire communication streams and or repositories of stored communication, which would inevitably include vast quantities of wholly domestic communications. Not just necessarily communications of the one person, but they would have access to pretty much whoever the hell they want, whenever the hell they want, to get whatever kind of information they want. So basically what's going to happen here is your businesses, your dental offices, if maids come to your house, your landscapers or whoever is there, they can be told to spy on you at the behest of the NSA. And hey, you have to give us access to any and all information that you have on people. This is a freaking nightmare. And 117 rhino Republicans sold us downriver in the House of all things. And here's what Edward Snowden had to say about this. And I love his assessment on this. He's got great advice. He's quoting Elizabeth Goyton there that I just quoted. And he says, the NSA is just days away from taking over the internet. Damn right. And it's not on the front page of any newspaper because mainstream media is in on it. Why is the mainstream in on it? Because they are owned by these three-letter agencies. And they've got part of their staff who work for the CIA, the FBI, and government, DHS, former all of that. So not a peep, not a word. You've just been sold down the river, Democrat or a Republican. You have been sold out. Take a listen to what Rand Paul had to say to Maria Bartiromo regarding this particular passing.
I want to also ask you about what you heard from the speaker regarding FISA. Can we trust government? Can we trust government to use FISA appropriately and legally?
Hell no.
Absolutely not. Americans shouldn't be spied on by their own government. The Fourth Amendment was put in by our founding fathers to protect us. FISA doesn't obey the Fourth Amendment. And so Speaker Johnson was incredibly wrong. He broke the tie. He voted with the Democrats. Here we have the leader of the Republicans in the House votes with the Democrats against a warrant requirement. We also have Speaker Johnson voting for the spending package, once again, with the majority of the Democrats. As I see it now, I'm not sure there's a difference between Mike Johnson being in charge and the Democrats being in charge.
Amen to that. Mike Johnson, I warned everybody about Mike Johnson. I said a lot of them get in there and turn. I'm going to wait and see what he's going to do. And he's turned out to be a complete crapshoot. Oh, freaking rhino. Oh, they tried to pass this FISA once already and it got turned down originally by the House. I was so dang happy. I'm like, yeah. And then, nope, let's do it again and make it worse. They actually made the FISA worse with this little change and tweak to it. And they don't care that they've just taken all of your rights. But there is Rand Paul slamming this, giving a warning to the American people, and Edward Snowden. And I really take them at their word. And by the way, I'm going to leave a link in the description box. I want to encourage you, call your senators. I don't care what site this on, Democrat run, whatever. You can look up and make a call to your senators because we need to stop this. And there are some Democrats who are against this in the Senate, but it has a real chance of passing, probably more likely than not. But if we can make a loud enough noise against our senators, maybe we can get some traction against this. And by the way, on Gateway Pundit, they shared all the 117 rhinos who voted for this warrantless spying on the American people with this new provision that they can have anyone and anyone who goes in your home or that you work with spying on you. But you can see all the different names here on there. And some may shock you, some may not. De La Cruz here, Edwards. Oh, and Elise Stefanik is on there. So there is some of those. Hill right there of Arkansas, and a lot of other names that you see on this list there. So I'll go through it fairly quickly. But these are people who shouldn't even be in office anymore that have sold us down the river. And it's sick and disturbing to the very core. Anyhow, I wanted to bring you that. I can't wait to read your comments and concerns on what's going on and what you think. And a lot of the times, I know there's people out there that are just like, oh, it's okay. They already spy. They already know everything we do. As long as you don't do something wrong. That's not how it works. It is not how it works. They can use any and everything against you whenever they want, however they want. They can twist it like they've done with Donald Trump right now, who's in the middle of this sham trial, this Stormy Daniels trial. It's not even about hush money. I'm not going to call it that, and I don't think you should. It's very negative, and it has nothing to do with that. And it's just a twist from the mainstream media. But anyway, I'm sidetracking. This is not good because they can make any case they want against you using anything they want. It doesn't matter if you're good or a bad citizen or whatever the hell. This is really bad, folks. And please share this video with everyone you know. And by the way, please make sure you're subscribed to the channel here on YouTube. They keep removing people. Let's go against the grain. Subscribe, have your friends subscribe, and make sure you have that all button checked. Anyhow, I love all of you. Thanks again for tuning in. I'm Lisa Haven, signing out.